Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with some updates to some of the repertoire videos that I've already posted. You know, I know that I make these pronouncements about the best of everything and the worst of everything, and this may shock you, I may not always be right. I mean, I'm mostly right. And we mostly agree. You know what I mean? There is in the world, as I've said before, a kind of consensus about what the best versions are. And if every one of you made a list, and I made a list, and we all drew Venn diagrams, you know, those circle things, and that had all the ones that we thought are in there, where they overlap, there probably would be, you know, a bunch of recordings that we all kind of agree on. And judging from your comments, we do most of the time. But there are versions that I leave out, sometimes deliberately, sometimes because I just forgot about them, sometimes because my collection is divided between here in Brooklyn and the overflow room in Connecticut. I mean, it all depends on what the actual circumstances were, and also just how many recordings there are of something. You know, there are so many that you can't possibly list them all. Or, you know, there are times where I've said in the comments as well, in answer to them, that I know it's wonderful, I left it out because I got to 10 or 12, and that's enough. I mean, it's already going to be a 20-minute or 25-minute video. And I really, really don't want to stress you out or stress me out or waste your time or you know, work up a whole lather about how many of these things there are. It can make you crazy. And, you know, I go to my collection, and I don't know about you, and I look at all of the recordings sitting there, and I know I am never, ever going to be able to listen to them again. I mean, I can't. It's not physically possible. There aren't enough hours in the day, and there's new stuff constantly coming, and it depresses me in a way, because so much of them have given me so much joy, and I would love to be able to just sit down, sit back, relax, and play them again, but I don't have time. I'm never going to have the time. And so I'm relying on my memory, and I'm relying on you to remind me of the things that I might have forgotten. And so I want to take this opportunity, and it's going to be a regular thing. Oh, and here's Peepo. Hello, dear. It's going to be a regular thing. Come here. Come say hello. Come say hi. Come here. Ooh, she's upside down. There we go. Hi. So I'm going to take some time to go through all of, you know, these videos at one point or another, and see what I've left out, and see if there's anything I should add, or if there are any comments I want to address specifically. And this is the first of those. I expect this will be a long-running series. I really think it will be. Okay, honey, thank you. There we go. Bye-bye. Okay, so first, you may recall I did a talk on the wonderful Finnish composer Einar Englund, and we took a look at some of his recordings, and as well as having written some marvelous piano concertos. Some of you mentioned that he also wrote a gorgeous violin concerto, which was sitting in the overflow room, and I went and I got it just so that I could tell you about it, and here it is. It's on the Ondine label. It's a gorgeous first-class work. It really is. And it's coupled with an equally beautiful violin concerto by Uno Klami, whose dates were 1900 to 1961, and who is a marvelous composer of orchestral music. His inspiration was French. He shamelessly filched Ravel a couple times, and we are going to do a separate talk on Uno Klami. It's coming up at some point. Let me just put this little thingy back in here. We're definitely going to do that. But I wanted to remind you of the violin concerto on Ondine. It's with Benjamin Schmid is the violinist, with the Oulu Symphony Orchestra under Johannes Gustafsson. It's a superb recording, and I recommend it very, very strongly if you're interested in Englund, because it's just, you know, how many great violin concertos are there, right? I mean, they're really good pieces, both of these works by Englund and Uno Klami. So that's that one. Next, the New World Symphony. Oh my God. The symphony with the endless number of recordings by everybody under the sun. Well, there were a couple of them that I didn't mention that you thought I should have. One was Kirill Kondrashin, which I agree with wholeheartedly. It's a fantastic performance. It's on Decca, and I have that sitting around here in a couple of different versions. I mean, not the least of which, I saw a picture of him, and he looked exactly like my grandfather. It was absolutely spooky. Really, really spooky. But except my grandfather wasn't a conductor. He sold auto parts in Danbury, Connecticut. So, but maybe Kondrashin's family did too. They were all Russian. So, there could have been something going on there. Anyway, the other recording of the New World Symphony, this was sort of the sleeper, which is why I want to mention it to you now, was this one, Zdeněk Matzal. Zdeněk Matzal with the London Philharmonic, the symphonic variations coupled with the New World Symphony. It is an absolutely magnificent, exciting, beautiful, bracing, fresh, intelligent performance of the New World Symphony, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you can find it, it was on EMI Classics for Pleasure. That's what this thing is. If it's still around and you can grab it, and you only have 50 or 60 New World Symphonies, and you need to get your average up to 65 or 70, this is one of the ones you should have. Zdeněk Matzal with the London Phil in the New World Symphony. Beautiful, folks. And thank you for the commentators who pointed it out. Thank you for mentioning it. I apologize for not having brought it up the first time around. Next, Mahler 2. Now, you remember the Mahler 2 talk? I mentioned the Klaus Tenstedt recording, and I used as an exemplar his studio recording, which I think is excellent. And all of you started jumping up and down like crazy people saying, no, you moron, it's the live one, you idiot. Well, you're right. I don't think I'm a moron, but I think you were right. That's this one, because there are two live ones, by the way, and you got to get the right one. This is the right one. It's with Ivan Kenny, Yard Van Ness, the London Philharmonic. The date on it, let's make sure we get this. It was recorded live at Royal Festival Hall. And let me see, do they actually tell you the date? That would really be nice, wouldn't it? But let's see, recorded live on, oh, here it is, 20 February 1989. That's the one, the live one that you really should have. It's fantastic. I mean, all of his Mahler 2s were fantastic. That was one of his signature pieces. He did it supremely well. And no matter which one you get, you're going to be in good shape. But again, I do appreciate the fact that you mentioned with however much venom and hysteria the fact that that is the Tenstedt Mahler 2 that you need to get. I still like the studio one for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is that the playing is a little bit better because it's a studio recording, but the imperfections in this performance are extremely minor, a few little flubs in the brass here and there, nothing serious, and it is a thrilling live performance, captured in very good sound too, which matters a lot. Next, C.P.E. Bach. Now remember we talked about the Hamburg symphonies, and some of you very kindly this time, not without froth coming out of your mouths, there's something about Mahler that makes people insane. Well, that's not true, because there's less froth than there is with like Bruckner. Bruckner is really the froth guy. The froth creatures are Brucknerites. But anyway, because I just did Bruckner, so I know for a fact. Let's see. We have C.P.E. Bach, and some of you mentioned that the Hamburg Symphony performances of the, Ensemble Resonance under Riccardo Minassi, right here, were absolutely superb. And they are, and I've had this disc for a while, and I still don't know what label it's on. It's on like E.S. Dur, which is E-flat major in German, and I'm not sure exactly if that's a label or what the hell that is. So if you see this like yellow thing here, this is the label. And I just think it's fabulous when they manage to come up with an artistic concept which is so brilliant and so evocative and so colorful that you have no idea what the hell the name is of the company involved. I don't know who these people are. I don't know. I've had this disc sitting around. It's marvelous. And they've done two others, which I want to tell you about. The first is this one, which is also on E.S. Dur. I suppose I should just call it S. Dur, but it's on Dur, and it consists of the 4 symphonies with 12 obbligato parts. Those are his symphonies with woodwind parts, and it's his his last 4 symphonies, effectively. And they're combined with the wonderful 6 little sonatas for winds, which are very, only exist because now there's a critical edition of CPE Bach, and we have this stuff. These are little pieces that last from between like a minute and 3 minutes, and they're scored for 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 horns, and a bassoon, and they're delicious. And they were written at about the same time as the symphonies. They're WQ 184, and the symphonies are WQ 183, and boy, are these symphonies hot stuff. They really are. And these are wonderful performances. There have been many good ones, to be honest, and maybe I'll do a separate video on the symphonies with 12 obbligato parts. But one way or another, this is a great disc. And finally, there is also a disc with one of the early symphonies and the 2 cello concertos of C.P.E. Bach. Fabulously played, by the way, by, what's his name here? Yes, Jean-Guyen Queyras. I'm not even going to try to see if I pronounce that correctly. I mean, take a look at this. Look at this thing right here. Look at that name. See that? You try and pronounce it. I don't care. And I don't care if you're French, you're not going to get it right. That's not a name in any language known to mankind. So anyway, this guy, Jean, G-U-I-H-E-N, Q-U-E-Y-R-A-S. I mean, that's worse than Nazgul Snezik-Yegin. It's impossible. So anyway, he plays magnificently. Now, the 2 cello concertos are actually transcriptions of keyboard concertos, or vice versa. All of C.P.E. Bach's concertos for other instruments in there, oboe concertos and and some other things, were originally for harpsichord, and these, or they got, again, detranscribed. I don't know. Bottom line is, fabulous works, thrilling works, exciting beyond belief, full of those crazy shifts of emotion and sudden eruptions and surprises. And these are hot performances. So I recommend everything that Ensemble Resonance does with C.P.E. Bach very, very strongly. But now, last but not least, comes the big moment. We're going to talk about Respighi. Yes, Respighi. Ottorino Respighi, proto-fascist, fabulous composer of Roman tone poems. Now, here's the deal. When I did the talk on the Pines of Rome, some of you pointed out that I left out some versions of the Pines of Rome because I didn't discuss Pines of Rome versions that were on discs that had all 3 Roman tone poems necessarily, because the discs where all 3 are coupled are sort of in a different league. They're in a different class because it's an excuse not to have to do 50,000 CDs of the same thing. I can do 2 videos instead of 1. But since you mentioned it, I thought, well, what the hell? And because we got a brand new disc of the 3 Roman tone poems, which I've already reviewed on ClassicsToday.com. It's up there, and you can feel free to take a look at it over there for a longer verbal review. It's this one with John Wilson and the Sinfonia of London on Chandos, and it's completely uninteresting. Wilson is one of those conductors who plays everything fast, and he has the Symphony of London is basically a studio orchestra, a pickup ensemble, and if you think for 1 minute they play as well as the major regularly constituted orchestras that have been doing this for 1 billion years, then you are on drugs. It's that simple. The playing is okay. The recording is okay. It has absolutely nothing exciting or insightful to recommend it other than the fact that the tempos are frantically fast in a couple moments, like at the beginning of Pines of Rome, the beginning of Roman festivals, and a few other places. But, the performances don't amount to much. So, coaster time. That's a coaster. But while we're on the subject, what made that recording even more ridiculous to me is that Chandos, the beloved Chandos, a label that does wonderful things, already has a really good version of the 3 Roman tone poems with Tortelier and with the Philharmonia, which is a much better orchestra than the Sinfonia of London, not least because it seems to have a fuller string section. But the only problem with this one is that, the cymbals are kind of off mic, at the climax of the march in the Pines of Rome, which happens from time to time. There are many recordings where that happens. It happens in Lenny's first Mahler too, where the cymbals just disappear. And I have to say, in real life, if you really see the Pines of Rome live, it's possible. I mean, I saw Sinopoli conduct it with the New York Philharmonic, and you couldn't hear anything except brass. It was so loud, they drowned out the cymbals, the tam-tams, they drowned out everything. And you have an organ going, that it happens. I mean, I saw Bernstein do Shostakovich's Leningrad Symphony with the Chicago Symphony. He brought it to New York and did it in Avery Fisher Hall. And the end of that thing was so freaking loud. I mean, you had three snare drums, and a couple pairs of cymbals and a double brass section. And you could see them do this. You couldn't hear a thing. All you heard was the brass. And when it was over, I'll never forget this. When it was over, I mean, he got a standing ovation. Everybody was up applauding madly. You couldn't hear any applause. You couldn't hear it. Your ears were ringing. Your whole sense of hearing had been realigned because of the noise. It took a couple minutes before normal hearing returned. That's how loud it can be. And the Pines of Rome can be that loud at the end. And I've seen it be that loud. So all that is here is an indication that they're playing flat out, which I didn't get a sense that they ever were with John Wilson and the Sinfonia of London. But, so while we're on the subject of discs of the Roman trilogy, let us talk about a few more and get that whole topic out of the way while we're doing it, right? First of all, you absolutely gotta have Toscanini. I mean, Toscanini knew Respighi. He knew the music better than anyone in the universe. It's a mono recording. It sounds amazingly good. This was that famous recording where Toscanini, they said that he was so loud he was going to break the machines, and he said something like, "The hell with your machines, break your damn machines." He had one of his famous Toscanini fits. The performances are thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. And what's so fascinating about them is that, yes, the Studio 8H or whatever it was, acoustic, was very dry, but these performances still have a textural transparency and clarity that is practically unmatched in any other version. Even though it's mono, you hear everything. It's phenomenal. And so you must hear them just to get that sense of what the music is and can be. But there were two other versions that you mentioned in the comments that I have to acknowledge. The first was Seiji Ozawa with the Boston Symphony, a great disc, fabulous playing. And I really think the end of Festa Romana has never been equaled in that Boston recording. It is so beautifully done. The balances are so good. I mean, just the intensity of the horns and cellos with the tune, when it's going, ya, da 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 da, ba, ba, ya da 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 da. It's unbelievable. Glorious. So that's one. And the other one is Riccardo Muti with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Another recording which, like the Tortelier, was not the best sonically. EMI always had trouble with Philadelphia, and it's good. It's a good recording, but boy, the playing, again, it's just smoking playing, fabulous playing, a powerhouse orchestra really strutting its stuff, and it's gorgeous. However, there is a sleeper performance that I need to talk to you about. It is absolutely essential, and some of you mentioned this one as well, and I was so proud of you. I mean, you guys are great. You're the best. You folks are just the best. You knew, you've done your homework, you've kept on listening, and you knew just how great this performance sounds. It's Enrique Batiz with the Royal Philharmonic on Naxos. It's very inexpensive. It's Naxos. It's cheap Naxos. It's early Naxos. And something happened with this recording where everything just went right. It is sonically, it's just a blockbuster. I'm going to play you the end of the Pines of Rome, the last 30 seconds or so of the march, just so you know what I mean. It is unbelievably cataclysmic. It's incredible. You ready? Listen to this. Let me put this up here so you can see. Listen to this. Isn't that amazing? It's just amazing. Somehow they just did it right. Everything went right on that day. And the performance itself is thrillingly exciting. It's on the swift side, but you can hear everything. And it's just one of those total pedal to the metal, no bullshit, take no prisoners, knock 'em dead. Yes, that's what these pieces have to be. And so that's a great record. And if you don't have it, you really should. I mean, just on the basis of what I played you, you should be rushing out to your computers to find ways to order it, even as we speak. So with that, I'm going to thank you again for all of your comments and suggestions, the constructive ones anyway. And I'm just keep on listening, folks. We'll be doing this regularly. I'm happy to give updates. Infallible though I try to be, every so often I slip up, and even oracles have their days off. So I hope that these updates have given you some extra food for thought and some insight into the fact that this is a process, an ongoing process, isn't it? And we're all in it together, working to find the best, the most enjoyable, the most interesting, and together we're going to do it. So thanks a million, take care, and all the best.